Hello, good day, and thank you for joining us today on episode number one of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. I'm Nobody, James Black, and the other Nobody here is John Ocker. Say hello, John.
Hello.
That was the perfect introduction. On this podcast, we'll be discussing our lives, TV, movies, music, video games, exercise, sports, and much, much more. But to kick things off, I'd like John, you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a very sad 33-year-old who lives with four cats and my lovely, adoring wife. Um,
I like that you had to check to see if she was adoring.
well, no, it's to see if she was around to.
Oh, you're
I'm
hiding.
trying to get some bonus points. I said adoring, I said all those things, and let's be honest, it's not going to get me anywhere in life, ahead or below. So,
It hasn't so far.
yeah. Yeah, just a 33-year-old. Love to play video games, run, very active. Enjoy speaking German when I can, although it's not as often as I should or it should be spoken. Um, I don't know.
How often should German be spoken? I don't feel like that's
On the daily,
a
just like getting
okay.
vitamin C or I mean vitamin D, you need that vitamin G. You need a little bit of
Gotcha.
German.
So as I'm walking down the street, I just have to drop in an Ich liebe dich every now and then.
Well, I mean, like, depends on who you're crossing on the sidewalk there, but sure.
I mean, I guess I'm just by myself. I don't know. I guess that's where it's
You
at.
got to pump
But
yourself up. You do what you got to do.
well, with that being said, again, my name is James Black. As we said before, this is going to be the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. What we're trying to do here is just create a little bit of fun for ourselves. I live in Wisconsin. My friend John here lives in Missouri. We grew up in Missouri together, and we've been separated by nearly 1,000 miles. So on a bike trip last week, we decided we wanted to try to do something to bring us a little closer together and hopefully create a little bit of entertainment out there for some people that are maybe potentially trapped at home or just looking for a little bit of fun, something to listen to, so on and so forth. So we thought we'd go into this. We're both a little bit into the nerd side of things. Like I said before, we both love video games. We both love movies. We both like music. John, bad music. Me, I like great music, of course. But
So what
that's just
happens? Whoa, 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 hold on. What happens when we like the same thing? I mean, like, what happens then? Does it negate out
uh,
and it's just like, it's whatever?
Yep, that's exactly right. We just don't get to talk about it. If we decide that there is something that we in fact both like, we just have to say, like for instance, you're like, "Man, I'm a big fan of, I don't know, Rob Zombie." I'm like, "I like Rob Zombie too." You're like, "Well, that was an awkward twist, so we're just gonna move on."
Just delete it
Um,
from your playlist.
yeah, we're gonna delete it from the playlist, and we can never listen to it again. That's just kind of the way that it
That's
goes.
right. I'll just go down to White Zombie, older stuff, I guess.
So again, I mean that's kind of the way that it goes. Whenever we made this decision, it was just really haphazardly thrown out there, and it's been something I've been wanting to do for the longest time. But as witnessed tonight, because we started this attempt at 8 p.m. and it's currently 1 minute away from 10 p.m. Just to figure out how to be able to record a podcast, and we're really just hoping that we'll be able to upload and stream and edit and so on and so on. All this information a little bit more down the road. So with that being said, John, on a typical uh, podcast moving forward, my goal is to try to produce something like this on the weekly. I don't know if that's your mindset too, or do you feel like that's too extensive?
Like extensive right now. I mean, like I'm pretty sure I could do it.
All right. Well, see, that's the thing. We didn't have a lot of discussion about this. So as
Nope.
stands, we're just trying to figure out what works best for us. So it might be weekly, biweekly, or monthly. We don't know yet, but it just depends on what um, I don't know. I guess where the wind takes us, right?
North, because it's blowing from the south right now.
That's true. It's definitely going to take us north. So with that being said, the way I would normally want to start this off is I'd say, "Hey John, how has your week been?" So we're going to start right there. John, how has your week been?
Well, I'm currently employed, so that has its benefits and, of course, its negatives. But I mean, it's a short week. Let's put it that way. I got tomorrow off. It's gonna be great. So,
That's true. This is going to be a holiday weekend because we have the 4th of July. I guess technically on Saturday. I forgot what day it was because it all kind of runs together at this point.
ginkgo
Um,
biloba, man, you gotta help
well,
your memory out. You're getting older.
that's that's true. That and fish oil pills, right?
Ugh.
No, I know. But the way I'm thinking about this is, like you said, as far as my week goes, not that you asked, but I'm going to go ahead and share anyway. Um, my week has been literally terrible. I guess it's a mixed bag because,
Is
as
it
I
because
told
you
you
ended up on this
previously,
podcast with me? It's like, it's
no, that's I'd say that's the highlight. That's the one driving factor because at the end of the day, I just decided, really, literally today, I text you, "Are we going to do this or what?" Because I've had such a terrible start to the week. Granted, it's Thursday now, but my air conditioning went out. It's 90 some odd degrees outside, and I have literally no technical skills. I have no. I'm not a handyman in any way, shape, or form. And on top of that, and I don't know if I told you this, but my air conditioning is also out at my work. So not only was it 90 degrees in my house, but it's also been 85 to 90 degrees in my building. So working 10 to 12-hour days in 90-degree weather to come home to 90-degree weather has not been ideal.
is that why you're drinking?
I mean, I'm always
Hydration,
drinking, but
hydration.
that's true. Yeah, that's what it is, right? They say the water in beer will count towards your daily intake, right?
Now I wanna I wanna circle back because I said ginkgo biloba, and then of course you brought up fish oil pills, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
How do you get that? How do you extract oil from a fish? Are you like just squeezing it like an apple,
I,
trying to get apple juice, or are you just like popping fish boils? You go up to a whale and just
I don't want to get too weird with it, but I imagine you have an orange squeezer, right? And if you saw that fish right in half, you can put the end on the
oh
squeezer
shit.
and just
But that's
just like you
juicing.
would a
That's
lemon.
juicing. That's not oil. That's
Okay,
juicing.
right. But I assume you can extract those oils from, I don't know. I'm not a
I don't.
scientist. What do you want from me? So anyway, on the good side, I was able to repair the air conditioning unit at a fairly low cost. I didn't have to call anybody in. And I'm just now noticing this. You have a little person's chair. And when I say little person, let me be clear. I'm talking about a child's chair in the background. To my knowledge, all you have is cats.
I want you to know that the viewers don't get to see that chair. So
Oh,
you
okay,
brought it
that's
up
good.
for nothing.
That's true. That's, I guess. I don't know what they see. All I know is
James,
what
I
I'm
don't
seeing.
know what you're referring to.
Well, now I just look like a liar.
Yeah,
But
nothing
uh,
new there.
well, moving on from how our week has been, I'm going to let you start out because my entertainment for this week is going to be relatively extensive. So, and you're going to be welcome to jump in, interject, and say whatever you want while I'm talking. But based on what you have down for your entertainment, I'm going to let you go for a minute, and I'll throw out any questions I might have. But I generally know nothing about this. So, John, what has been entertaining you this week?
Um, mostly boredom. Uh, no, so
I don't know if boredom is entertaining.
yeah, right. Honestly, entertaining. I've just had a few extensive gameplay sessions with XCOM Crimea, and it is basically a turn-based, not a strategy game. You've got a tactical squad. Yeah, turn-based tactical game where
What did you call this game?
XCOM. Oh, I called it Crimea, didn't I? Yeah, it's Chimera. Yeah, my
Yeah,
bad.
it's so entertaining that you don't even
Watch out,
remember what the name
Putin.
of it is.
I'm coming at you tactically.
Yeah. Oh my
Anyhow,
gosh.
you've got like okay, so the whole gist of it, it's like you could call it like the third or fourth, depending on what camp you sit on, XCOM, and we've already like reclaimed Earth, and there's a city of like a mixture. It's a metropolitan, not international but interspecies city, and so far I'm part of like this special squad of police officers or whatever, and I've got a mixture of robots and aliens, alien hybrids, and you know humans just to solve things. So
So it plays much like the previous XCOM 1 and 2?
it, except on this one, so the as far as I've played, yes, like the tactical portion of it. On this one, it's more like okay, so we know there's a building. There is some bad guys in it. They're doing whatever nefarious
Does
things.
this all take place in one location and you work your way up the levels? Say you're in Die Hard, the film?
No and yes. So each zone that you go into does have multiple layers to the same map. You go into the building, the first deal is to breach the building. So you've got
Gotcha.
options. There's a window, there's a side door, there's a garage door, or do you just go up to the side of the building and put a charge on the side of it and blow a hole in the building? That initiates one action. You get the jump on the bad guys, hopefully, and you get a set of actions before the rounds go into play. After you've cleared that room, now you've got an option of like, hey, the next one. If a guy got out, he just warned everybody else in the next zone of that room, and so boom, 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 until you go back to your base and go into other stuff.
How far would you say you are into this game, and
98
this is
minutes.
PC? 98 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I started
you
over. I
only
got one of my
admit,
guys
right?
got taken down. And I was like, starting over. I can't lose Jeb. Jeb, I need Jeb. He's a critical part of my team.
So this is permadeath.
Okay, so just like the other XComs, if a member of your squad goes down, they gone.
So
You
the
better
answer to that
start
question.
training a new recruit. So
So why is Jeb so important to your squad?
I can't. I'm starting off. I can't. I have like a 5-man team. I
Gotcha.
can't lose one.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So being a whole 98 minutes in, and I just want to know, as a comparison to XCOM 1 and 2, you played through both of those games in their entirety.
Hmm.
Okay. How long would you say those games
Um, it depends on your style. I'd say 8 to 16 hours.
are? Okay. And this game is a feature length, a full length game, would you say?
Yes, no, it is a standalone.
So you're going to have at least an 8 to 12 to 15-hour experience.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're just scratching the surface then.
yes. In
So
fact, I
how
wouldn't even
how does
count
this?
the first 70 minutes of it because I started
So you're
over.
92 minutes in. You don't count the first 70, so you're 22 minutes into this game.
Well, yeah.
And we're on Thursday, which is technically day 5 of the calendar week, right?
Hmm.
So the thing that has been entertaining you for the first 5 days of this week is 22 minutes of a new game that you've been playing.
Okay, well,
It's not even new. Is it new? Did it just come out?
yeah, it came out like a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4. I don't remember.
Well,
My
that's
buddy
the
was like, "Hey,
saddest
you need
thing.
to get that. You got that." So I got it. I don't know what you wanted me to do. I work. I get up in the morning. I feed birds, stray cats. I feed my cats. I either go on a jog or I look at the bullshit news. Then I go to
And then
work, cry
crying
about
because you are
Crimea because I remember. I remember Putin.
Crimea. What are you doing?
Crimea, man. I remember.
What is this Nazi
I
propaganda? I
I
don't
was
even
watching the
understand
news
what's
this
going on
morning,
here.
and they did a deal about how Putin, strong man of Russia, and like how he annexed Crimea from Ukraine, and they just voted him to potentially be president of Russia until 2036. And I was just like, fuck Putin. But hey, he's
Uh,
not Trump, so
I
I'm
would
not
just
trying to
like
get
to.
political. I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, you're perfectly fine. I think that everybody should agree with you. But with that being said, it does seem that you just have interest in foreign policy. But I just want to just warn everybody that it's not so much foreign policy interest as much as you are just a foreign insurgent, and you're here to bring us down from the inside
Yeah.
out,
So
which is working because you voted for. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So I will tell you one thing that has been entertaining for me besides looking at new solid state drives that are coming to the market. I stumbled upon on YouTube a short video of this English person. It's called Filth, something you called me or something like that. It's just called Filth, and this guy's an exterminator, and so he like went to this apartment and was like talking about cockroaches, and it is mortifying. But Madison and I watched a couple of these episodes the other day, and one of them was they have problems. I mean, I'm sure we have problems here like that, but they have like older sewers in old parts of England, and like they'll have like they only did like Chinese restaurants and Indian restaurants, but they're dumping so much grease down the drains that it clogs up. It is disgusting. But it's a great show, so I found that entertaining. That was the
Okay, and where
day.
do you find this?
We found those on YouTube. We tried to look at another streaming platform like Amazon or Netflix or Hulu, but none of them carried them because we like to watch a lot of those English problems. You know.
A lot of those English
Well, if you
problems.
watch your
Yeah, where
problems over here, you get depressed. So might as well watch your neighbor's problems.
that's true. And those
That way they're
cockroaches and the drains are nothing compared to the things that we're dealing with here because it's a real trash place to live right now. Which is the saddest thing I've ever had to say, but it's honestly the way things feel. But speaking of trash places to live, I'm gonna jump into the piece that has been entertaining me, if that's gonna be okay with you.
Are you bringing up Crimea again?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up Crimea now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna bring up something that you're probably gonna have literally nothing to interject about. So just kick back because
Try me.
I'm gonna go into a deep dive here. So first of all, I've been playing and actually have finished The Last of Us Part Two. I see you pulling out your phone there. You don't even care.
Well,
That's okay.
I've got to look it up so I can.
I do want to acknowledge here. Your phone said it was 1022.
No, it's a, it's 22:11.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just saw the 22. I forgot you're on military time because it's that foreign diplomat thing, you know? It's
If okay, so I'll go into that a little bit. If you've ever had to reboot a server, the difference between 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. makes a huge
oh yeah.
deal. So like,
Y2K.
sure.
Shut the country down for years. And we're
So
just now coming out of it.
most of the clocks in the house are standard, but a few things I have as 24-hour clocks so that there's no way that you can, misconstrue 2400 with 12. So,
Sure. Sure. Well, fair enough. But to dive back into The Last of Us Part 2, and I'm going to try to keep this again, not that we have anybody watching this right now or maybe potentially ever, but I'm going to keep this as spoiler free as humanly possible because I think it's generally wrong to try to spoil something this new. This game came out roughly 2 weeks ago. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive, as everyone would know. It's obviously not necessarily the sequel, but a continuation story to the first Last of Us, which was a PlayStation 3 exclusive and then got ported over to the PlayStation 4 as The Last of Us Remastered. Um, I will flat out, very blanket statement say I am a Last of Us fanboy. Uh, I I would easily say that the first game is one of my favorite, if not, I'll just say it's. I hate doing definitive statements like it's my favorite game of all time because I think if I have to go down to the nitty gritty, I'm going to say that Mega Man 2 is still my favorite game of all time because I'm an old school person. Um,
just
but
old.
it's there you go. I'm just an old person, but I will say that The Last of Us is still probably one of my top three favorite games of all time. And this game comes in directly where that story left off. I guess I can't quite say that. It comes in 4 years after that story left off, but it's a direct continuation because it picks up in the most interesting parts of where that game left off, dealing with conflicts that the first game ended with, and so on and so forth. And let me tell you, um, in my humble opinion, that this is one of the most powerful video games I've ever played. It is the most technically impressive. It is the most storytelling uh, side of things impressive. I don't know how to properly
Do
say
you want
that,
me to
but it's
ask like how is it technically impressive?
yeah, it's again playing on the PlayStation 4. Being I know that you're primarily a PC gamer, so you're probably used to a lot of the technical advancements that maybe I'm not so much used to being primarily a console gamer, but a lot of the things that it does are just off the charts. And be that with the way that your clothes fall in ways that I've never seen in a game. Your hair interacts with the wind. The way that you can approach a level is multi-tiered, multi-directional. You can sneak through cracks, and that's nothing necessarily new, but it is an adjustment to the gameplay of The Last of Us. So with this one being again a continuation, that is something that's new enough that makes it interesting and fun. The AI is unparalleled, but the one note I will make about that is The Last of Us specifically is a game I played through between 3 and 5 times, and it's a 7-year-old game, so that's not too excessive. But I did platinum it on the PlayStation 4,
I'm bragging
which in
now.
order, well, it's not necessarily a brag as much as it is. It was an obsession of mine. I thought, hey, I'm playing through this for the third, fourth, or whatever time. It might be time to just go for that platinum. In order to do that, you have to play through it on the hardest setting, and that takes away a lot of the pleasantries um, and makes it a lot more difficult. But it makes you appreciate and hold on to your weapon, your ammunition, et cetera, a lot more. So going into this game, I played it on the standard difficulty, and it was in my opinion, a little on the easy side. A lot of the more tense moments, I knew how to kind of manipulate the AI, even though they, again, as I was saying before, they're kind of unparalleled. they call out, like, if you shoot one of the characters and he dies and you have a squad looking for you, if they notice that he's dead, they shout his name out. And I never once in my entire playthrough heard the same name twice. So you kill somebody and they're like, "What happened to Greg?" You know?
So it's just like the little tiny details of the developers. Either they decided to put it in, but they put it in, whether it was a call for management or somebody else in the storyline. So that is kind of
Absolutely.
cool.
And it's just the physics. There's roughly three physics puzzles in the game where you have to take a rope. The first one's really simple. You take a rope, you throw it over something, and then you can climb up the rope.
Whoa,
But you have to
you're
use
now
it to,
telling
like,
people how to beat that.
I know that is a
That's a
spoiler.
spoiler.
No, but there's a metal beam and you'll throw it over, and then you can climb up that to that beam and access a roof or whatever the
So
case may be.
that feels more like a Tomb Raider kind of thing. Hey, figure this out to get to the next area.
Yeah, and that's very true. Now, later on, it has a section where you find a rope somewhere in the area, and then you have to break different sets of windows to be able to leverage that rope to get to the access point that you need to. And those are not a required access point. That's something that's additional outside of the story, so it just gets you extra upgrades and things of that sort, right? So it's if it's not something that you like, you can just easily bypass it. Um, but it is a very interesting system. I do kind of wish there were a little bit more of the puzzly parts, but they did get rid of a lot of the issues from the first game. And I know I'm being pretty vague um, there, but I know that you yourself are not like a super number one console player. I know that you probably didn't have anything to do with the original Last of Us,
No,
I would
because
assume.
I skipped the PlayStation 4.
And that's a topic for another day because you're
Yeah.
crazy. But we'll get back to
Am
that
I
another
crazy?
time.
Because
You
I
are.
mean,
It's
like,
You're missing out on some of the best console exclusives, best video games
that's
of
Sony's fault.
our.
That's Sony's
It,
fault.
that's
I'd buy
fine.
him. I'd buy him on PC. I mean, well, let's
One
get off that.
one
Let's
of
go
these
back to
days.
The Last of Us
No,
2.
one of these
Are they
days
going to port it to the PlayStation 5? And they should, because
should
I am impressed with the PlayStation 5.
should is a strong word. Are you thinking you're going to be on the train for the PlayStation 5?
We'll see.
Well, the thing is, number one, the PlayStation 5 is going to be completely backwards compatible. So even if they don't port it to it, it's going to be accessible
Yeah,
through
but
the
I mean, come
PS5.
on.
I
It's
know
a
you want
relatively new
upscaled
game.
graphics. Right, I get it.
Not just that, physics, details.
I'm going to tell you right now that this is the kind of game that, in my personal opinion, is 100% unmissable. There has been a lot of backlash, and we're going to go into that in just a little bit. But it's blowing my mind. Well, again, I'll save that for a moment. But um, love it or hate it, the story is for you. It's not for you, whatever. But it's the kind of game that really, for me, and the same thing with the original, has made me think about it. And I beat this game roughly 4 or so days ago. We were on our trip when the game came out. I didn't get to play it until, um, I mean, I sound like a
Is
baby
that why you
myself here,
wanted
but
to do like 82 miles on the last day? You're like, oh
we had
fuck.
we had to get it done. We had to. But it was like, I wanted to. I did. I really, really wanted to be able to get to this game because I've never cared about characters as strongly as I have in The Last of Us, and I've never having played part two, I have never ended up feeling a completely different way, but still loving those characters, but in different reasons, for different reasons. It's insane. It's literally insane. It's something I strongly suggest that anyone and everyone plays. I think it's unmissable. And I can't even say that it's something that has been entertaining me this week as much as I can say that it's something that has been consuming me this week. Um, I, it's roughly a 30-hour experience, and I could pretty much do nothing in my downtime but play this game. Um, and it's a fantastically dreadful ride, but it hits on every note that it needs to. So I would personally like to wax poetic about this game for another hour, but I know that we both have things to do. And as our first attempt at a podcast, we don't want to necessarily go on forever and ever. But something that I'd like to propose, if I can organize my thoughts in an appropriate manner, and I can create some way to even to create like an continuation of our story and our conversation, I could do an actual like full on spoiler cast or something like that if it ever became necessary. Because again, one thing I'm missing is somebody that I could just flat out go on to and have a conversation with about this game, because it does make you feel and think in ways that you don't experience with a lot of media in this day and age. I feel plenty with the state of the world as you do, right? You can't flip to the news and not get excited about British cockroaches because you can't, you know, take your mind off any other garbage that's going on.
Well, they're there. They have their purpose.
That's true. That's true. But this this conversation will lead me into the final segment of tonight's show, and then we can wrap this thing up, and we can use this as kind of a jumping off point. But I wanted to talk a little bit about entitlement, and I want to know. I'm going to read this to you. It's just very simple. It's the definition of entitlement, because I'm sure you know what the word means, but I want to tell you what the definition of the word entitlement
I don't know,
is.
where are
All
you
right.
pulling this definition from? This Black Laws
This
Dictionary, Webster, what do we got?
this is from
Bing.
Google.com. I typed in entitlement, and I will be completely honest that this is the second definition, because the first was very brief. All right. So the word entitlement, based on Google's number two definition, is the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. All right. So I want you to take a second, and then again, I'm going to go on a rambling rant about entitlement. But I want you to tell me what entitlement means to you, and if you think it is a problem today and where we are. And again, I'm going to branch off of the fact in the conversation of video games for today's topic. Um, Actually, I'll give you a starter. It won't be my main point, but my starting point, right? If we go back to Mass Effect 3, you didn't play the Mass Effect games, I don't believe, right?
Nope.
Mass Effect 3 came out. The first two games, um, extremely popular. They told a very rich story, and they allowed you to make a lot of decisions, killing some of the characters, allowing some of the characters to stay alive, et cetera, throughout the storyline. And then the Mass Effect 3 comes out. The ending of the game is like allegedly terrible. They People complain that it took away all the choice and stripped you of all your opportunities that you had had previously with the other games, right? So the community, the online community, was able to complain to the point where they went in and the developers went in and they literally changed the ending. Okay. Now, to give my brief opinion on this matter, and then I'll go into, after you do, my opinion about where I'm going with this. I don't like the idea that we can complain and change art for what we don't want it to be, or make it change to what we think it should be. Um, you know, for instance, one of my favorite movies. Um, I say one of my favorite movies, and then I quickly run through all my favorite movies. No Country for Old Men, which again you probably never saw because you suck and you like terrible movies.
You wait, you say I didn't see it because is this gonna play into the music? Because I might have a Blu-ray copy of
Have you
No
have
No
you watched
Country
No
for Old
Country?
Men. Yeah,
Do you like it?
I own it.
Well, that doesn't mean you like it. I own like seven movies I haven't even watched.
I got a few of those too. No, I thought it was a really good movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time,
It's
and the
it's a
ending.
little long, but I do like it.
I think it's my favorite Coen brothers movie. And anyway, the ending of that movie is divisive at best. But that would be like, for instance, the Mass Effect, the comparison that I'm bringing up. If I were to go in there and say, because it ends the way that it does, and spoilers for No Country for Old Men, but the main character of the story, pause for dramatic effect, dies at the end of that film, after you have gone through this entire storyline hoping he makes it out because he is a seemingly good person. But then us as fans come in and complain, and the Coen brothers go in and change the ending, which has never, to my knowledge, been done. Um, I think that would ruin that piece of media for me. So now, like I said, long intro, long, turning it over to you. what are your thoughts on entitlement as it might pertain to whatever you want to discuss?
Video games or whatever.
Sure.
So I actually, probably like 7 years ago, I said I was going to write a book about entitlement and basically it being a poor product of today's society. Um, Long story short, after I got out of college, out of university with 2 degrees, it was hard for me to find a job, so I worked at
Humble brag.
a entity um, which provided cellular service, and what I thought produced horrible people as customers and invited them to. And I feel like there are a couple other big name coffee shop that also does that. It makes people become inhumane monsters and forget about respecting each other, not just as like citizens or neighbors, but just as people in general. And I feel that like I feel I'm entitled to say that. I think everybody's entitled. Everybody it feels that they're entitled, but I think entitlement without respect for others is horrible. Now, you want to wrap that up in the video games. I feel like I'm entitled to a better game than what I got for Anthem. Um, yes, Anthem. So I used to I had for like 4 years my main operating system was Ubuntu Linux, and I got really excited because one of my favorite directors, Neil Blomkamp, he did that little like short thing for Anthem, and I got pumped. And I switched over to Windows so I could play it a lot easier.
I
Have
don't
tr
even know what this is. What did he do? And you're talking about the director of Elysium,
Elysium, Chappie,
Chappie,
District 9.
District 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did he do for Anthem?
He did like a little short video, like a live action video
Oh, I've not
for
seen
it.
this.
Sold me. I switched over from Ubuntu because I had such a problem playing Fallout 76 on Linux, and I was like, I can't have a problem with this game. And you and I
Gotta
picked
get.
up. I mean, we built you a PC and we were gonna play Anthem, and it was rough at the start. It got a little bit better, but the ending of that game, I felt robbed. We're fighting the boss, right? Bring him down, and we don't even get the kill shot. Some AT-AT comes in, slams into him, and he's done. I feel
Spoilers.
like, well, yeah, I know. There's a lot of mechanics of the game that I found frustrating, and I also found it frustrating that I was very upset. We got robbed at the end from our kill that we deserved it. I felt entitled to snuff out his life. Worked so hard to get to that point, but
That's the German side of you. With that being said, though, the entitlement that you're feeling
I paid 60
is
bucks. I'm entitled to some good feelings here.
sure, but what did you do with that entitlement?
Um, I hope that they redo the game like they said they were going to, or pumped out the content that they haven't.
And I know I just sprung that on you, but I think that you are hitting the nail on the head there, right? At the end of the day, and maybe I'm wrong, but the way that I feel about this scenario, at the end of the day, because I feel the same way. I bought a $60 game. We were promised one thing, a long content heavy ecosystem like a Division or a Destiny or whatever the case is, but in Iron Man suits, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the concept was fantastic. And actually, in my opinion, the gameplay was addictive. The execution was bad.
Yeah. Once you're in the level, flying around and stuff like that, it's awesome. It was pretty good.
Right. Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, again, I felt the same way. It's not something that I wanted. It didn't go the way I wanted it to. I wanted more. I wanted to feel more complete. But after all was said and done, we got roughly, and I'm ballparking it, this was a year plus ago now, we got 20, 25 hours out of that game, I
Yeah.
think.
I don't know. I would have to look if it
Yeah.
records. I don't know.
And so we got a decent amount of content out of that game. And for me, not being a big MMO style ongoing experience player. I'm more of a narrative or maybe even I go one of two ways. I like narrative games. I like competitive online games, be it call me whatever you want, a Call of Duty player or an Apex Legends player. I like quick in and outs, or even Fortnites. I like that. I'm not good at them,
You
but I
know who
like them.
else likes quick in and outs?
I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Your mother.
My mother. That's that was a
Sorry.
good one.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, that's okay. You might as well take those cheap shots because you know she does. But anyway, Um, that was a joke.
Was it?
Yeah, sure.
Steven won't
Um,
find that funny. He pays good money.
that's true. That's true. I mean, not great money. He doesn't have a job. But anyway, I go narrative or I go competitive online. And when it comes to the games like Anthem, I want a good payoff. I want a good story. And I did feel robbed, like you said, in that. But to me, it felt like good game, bad story, no payoff. I didn't like what I got. Moving on, right?
Okay.
To
Yep.
go
That's how it
back to
goes.
my starting point, with a game like The Last of Us, for instance, apparently there are a lot of users or some users that are starting a petition to try to undo some of the things that happen within the first couple of hours of that game, which again, I'm not going to go into spoilers because I don't want to ruin it for you if you ever get to experience it. Um, but I think that that very strongly shows an ugly side of entitlement and where people seem to fall in the camp of out, our content that we get to consume is now our story to manipulate or adjust or just generally um, have and maneuver. It kind of goes back to the old days of uh, pirating online music, right? It's you created that music, ended up online, I can get it for free, so now it's mine, right? So I'm entitled to that music even though I'm stealing it. And I think that mentality, even though that's a very old person's mentality, spoiler alert, I'm old, um, has kind of gone in and infiltrated our minds to the point where we feel like the content needs to work for us. And I don't like that. I don't like, and again, I don't know what the answer to that problem is, but I think as I play through a game and the story beats don't hit for me, for instance, The Last of Us Part 2, some of those story beats, I didn't like seeing them go the way that they did. I don't like those characters making those decisions. But at the end of the day, that's not me. I didn't create the story. The story is for me to consume and then judge it based on that criteria. So your review at the end of The Last of Us Part 2 should be theoretically. Gameplay is great, storyline is deep and intense. I didn't like the story beats, so it wasn't for me. But the other side is the people saying, I hate your story, change it, you ruined it, you spit in my face as a fan and disrespected me. And I think that that is disrespectful to the creators because they clearly had a story that they wanted to tell. Anthem, to go back to your point, is a game that had an agenda on the money making side. They introduced microtransactions. They introduced ways to hook a player and that didn't pay off, right?
Correct.
So if I had dumped a bunch of money into that game and expected more and more and more long life out of it, I could say that yes, I feel entitled to more content. But that was what was promised was a wealth of content, and that's not what players got.
You know
And
who
now,
doesn't complain? Or at least maybe I'm just not aware of them complaining that much. I know people complain about movies, and apparently they've redone the endings for some. I mean, Han didn't shoot first or whatever. Uh, but people that read, I don't think I've ever seen anybody like, oh, we better rewrite that book. Shit.
you're actually exactly right, and that's something I haven't actually considered as far as the book side go. And I'll tell you what, there are so many terrible books out there
Oh yeah,
that
and they'll make terrible movies about them too.
yeah, and I think you are right. The film side of things is starting to dabble. You picked out the perfect one, the Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy. George Lucas and his people went in and they made a bunch of adjustments, as everybody knows. A lot of minor adjustments, updates, and things like that that can be good, but in a lot of ways it does for me worse than the films. I haven't seen the original cut of A New Hope since I was 10 years old, since they re-released it in the theaters with the updates, because they literally wiped that content from the face of the earth. You'd have to literally stream it, pirate it illegally in order to find the original content. And that's a shame. Why would somebody go, and that's where I guess me personally, I feel entitled to the original film that I was given. And I think that's a broken system. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. Another one, much more recent, and I have not seen this movie. I can't speak to its quality, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's trash. Cats. They went back in and did adjustments to the CGI and things like that to make it more hip with the times to try to improve a film that was getting critically and commercially panned.
Yeah, they try to fix it on the fly, which, as far as I know, that's like the first time anybody's actually ever tried to do that.
You're
Um, and
same.
it's
That's
not
I agree.
going to be the last because the content is more digital. They can do on the fly. They're pumping out faster and faster computers for digital animation, so they could adjust that and fix it. So the film that you pay for, that you see before I do, and I go
Might be a
like,
different movie,
yeah, well, it'll be dynamically different. They can change whatever
and
they want.
that is generally upsetting. I think the right way to do it, while we're on the topic of film, is to release a different cut. You look at a movie like Blade Runner, which we might have discussed. I think we discussed it last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Whenever
you
we
didn't think it was
did
the
a
end
red,
all. Yeah.
I'm
Or
not a big
wait,
fan of.
first or second?
Yes, I think that they're both relatively boring films, but that's just me. Um, uh, they did it the right way. There's like 11 different cuts of Blade Runner, and I'm being facetious, but basically there are multiple versions of Blade Runner, and each one is so drastically different that it makes you choose, or I'm sorry, rethink whether the character is a rep. I think it's Reploid. I can't remember the robot. I sound like an idiot now, but yeah, it makes you wonder if he's a robot or a human. So based on which version of the film you see, you could come out in a completely different camp. Now the sequel answers that question for you. Not that I know the answer because I fell asleep halfway through it in the theater because it's a boring ass movie. But hey, to each their own. I know you loved it.
I really enjoy so like I guess it is a very dry film. But I really do enjoy the story, the environment, the
The visuals are amazing.
visuals, the social um, questions that it tries to like deal with. Like in that one, they're trying to figure out. So like in the second one, there's some spoilers here. It's hard to tell the difference between a synthetic and a naturally born human. And the synthetics, they are sub-citizens. And in the second one, the whole deal is that now they have the potential to actually reproduce. So where's the line of what's human and what's not human? You know, who gets to say that they're less than us? I mean, like these are things that we deal with anyhow. Because some people
They're
feel
called
they're entitled to.
replicants. They're called replicants, not reploids. I was close, but I was wrong.
Yeah, well, you mix like replicant with android. I call them synths because they're synthetically created, but
That's okay.
it's the
I'm
same
not
thing.
saying you did anything wrong. I just wanted to make sure I got my story correct because I
Yeah,
didn't want to look
just put this
that
up on
bad.
YouTube. You son of a bitch! You don't even know what to come.
I mean, we haven't even had a single viewer yet. We're already talking
I'm
about
already like,
people
I'm ready.
talking
I'm ready
stuff.
to put on the chat like, dumbass.
Oh, I don't blame you, but I completely understand, and I think that in a perfect world, and I recognize I went on a bit of a rant, but I will say that it does generally make me angry. The vitriol that comes from the entitlement, and not to I just want to touch on this for just a second, and I know that we want to maybe try to stay non-political as much as humanly possible, but the moral of the story is, you don't want to wear a mask in today's corona society. That's entitlement. It's telling you that you don't need to be uncomfortable. Um, to potentially save lives, right? That's the way that I view that.
Yeah, it's just selfishness. I wouldn't necessarily claim it as entitlement. Remember, I feel like everybody at some point is entitled in XYZ category, and everyone feels entitled at one point or another in their life. That's how it is. Respect is what's missing. So you need balance. Okay, you gotta have dark, you gotta have light. Entitlement is dark, but it's there, and sometimes it's warranted. It's deserved, so to speak. Um, but you have to have the balance of that, and that's to respect others. Okay, just respect the story, the people that built the story. Respect the studio and the developers that created this game, this environment for you to enjoy. You might not have enjoyed it, and well, you're not going to enjoy everything. You don't need to enjoy everything. Okay? Do I need to give you a trophy? for everything that you do in your life? No. So you didn't enjoy it. Sucks to
I
suck,
really
move on. There's going to be other things in life.
I really do think you have hit the nail on the head. That is, um, entitlement is not necessarily inherently bad, but it is the respect that comes along. And
You
I
have to
agree
have
completely.
respect, yeah.
But I do think when you consume a piece of, again, art, a piece of content, you have to understand that it's not made, and I know this is shocking, and maybe this is a hot take, it's not made for you, right? It's made from the passion of the creator. And sometimes you can feel and accept and understand
I
that
think you got it
passion.
wrong. It's not made for you because you're nobody.
That's true.
You're one of many, and it's made for the masses because you are not Jeff Bezos and not rich enough to have a full development team make a game just for you
Yeah,
because you're not
obviously,
special. You're not
but I don't
special.
know. I don't know that most artwork, most content is made for the masses. I think in the streaming culture, I think
In
in
today's
the
society. Now,
YouTube culture, it is.
older art, was made by the Duke, King, Queen, the person that had the purse strings to have said piece created. Music or painting or sculptures, that was all done by the elites.
I see. I just don't know that I completely agree. I think in today's society, today's culture, there are multiple pieces of art, be it through film, music, video games, etc.
I guess it depends on what you call art or
Ha-
what
have
you
you
would hold in
have you
esteem.
have you seen the film The Lighthouse?
Not yet.
Okay, you should watch that, and you tell me,
It's on my wish list.
based on your opinion, after you watch that film, was that film made for the masses, or did that director make the movie exactly the way he wanted to make it? And then if people liked it, they liked it, and people that didn't like it didn't like it. The thing that about that I would come in with is that's such a niche, you know, piece of film that the people that want to watch it are going to watch it, and the ones that don't are going to see the trailer and say, "Yeah, it's probably not for me," and just completely move on. But when you take such a wide net, and that's where I get back to circle back around to the original point that I add with entitlement. You take a game like The Last of Us, that the first game sold something in the ballpark, and I'm literally guessing. I'm say guessing. I have loose knowledge, but it's somewhere in the ballpark of like 12 million copies
You
sold,
got
and I
that
could be
Google right
completely
there.
I could check it, but it's so far. I mean, it's just all the way over here, and I just can't reach it.
Yeah, I got a
But
computer, but
but they took such a niche game, and I say that because it is a zombie game, right? And it's based. If I were to tell you,
whoa, spoilers! I didn't know that.
well, spoilers, they're zombies. They're
I
not.
thought
Well, they're not zombies. They're infected. You know what? Never mind. We won't go into any more details on The
like
Last
with
of Us for now.
COVID.
Kinda, yeah. It's a very hard game to play right now because it's so depressing. But the moral of that story is I don't think that game was made with the masses in mind, because this is from Naughty Dog, the developer of Uncharted and the Uncharted series, the Crash Bandicoot majority of the series, the Jack and Daxter. So if you look at those other three specific categories, those are games developed for the masses, wouldn't you say? Based off the limited knowledge you might have on those games. Last of Us was made with a story to tell. They made the story they wanted, and it ends in a way that doesn't appeal to the general masses, but it had a hook that somehow caught enough people off guard that they said, wow, that was actually really powerful. So this game starts that way, but it takes a turn that makes you it it's generally shocking. Like I said, I was my wife came into the room and she was just like, I'm not a big crier. I don't really cry, but whenever I was clearly down and she said, "What's wrong?" and I said, I just can't believe what happened right here. And she doesn't play video games. And when I told her, she was even like, "Wow, I can't believe they did that." And when I hope this isn't too much of a spoilery suggestion, but
She
again,
Nathan
that
Haled.
that's kind of, I can't say anything about that. That's a resistance. You know,
Yeah, that's
reference.
yep.
That's a Resistance 2 reference specifically. Um, but yeah, spoilers for a 13-year-old game.
And if it lays true to what I said, spoilers for a new game, James.
Well, I hope that
Should
comes
have
out.
made
I
him
don't think
play
it's coming anytime soon.
both
That's
Resistance.
that's how they're going to get you back into the PlayStation 5. They got to put a Resistance back out. But
I
let's be
told
clear.
Steven that, yeah.
I just want to do a quick rank in here to go way off the mark, and then we can try to wrap this guy up. To rank the Resistance games, it's clearly Resistance 1, Resistance 3, Resistance 2 at the very bottom. That game is so far below everything that the first and the third were.
Except for the ending.
I agree, but if they had the first 10 minutes and then the last 10 minutes and made that 20-minute game, I would have loved it. Everything in between with the two weapon swaps and the heavier gameplay and the terrible multiplayer.
Was
And
the second one where we were coming into like central United States, where you start off in like uh Greenland and stuff?
you're asking a lot of good questions, and I don't have a lot of good answers. I know that the entirety of the third game takes place in the United States. Um, the first game takes
I
place, I believe, in Germany, right?
I don't want to argue with you, but I did enjoy the second one. It had
That was
it was
you're
not
getting a little
Resistance.
aggressive, and you need to relax.
Well, it wasn't like Resistance what you wanted, but I enjoyed the storyline for it.
I like the ideas that they implemented. I don't like the execution.
It wasn't the
Again,
same game.
that is the definition of what I'm talking about. The first game came out, which I know is crazy, but we as a group, you, myself, and some of our friends, we bought PlayStation 3s on day one, and we could tell that story on another time. We uh, bought Resistance, and we ended up with the intention of selling the PlayStations, but we ended up keeping them, and we played the crap out of that game. I mean, we
Yep.
put hundreds of hours. We put like 24-hour sessions into that multiplayer because it was way better than it had any right to be. Then the second game came out, and I was wholly disappointed. We went out to Walmart at midnight, and we bought that game, and we were so excited. We threw it into our systems, and for me, I was like, I generally hate the way that this is going. And I didn't go to a forum, and I didn't send an email, and I didn't send death threats to the cast of the game. And that's stuff that's happening with this game. People are sending death threats to the cast because they don't like what their character decisions were in the game. They're just actors. Shut up. I
Listen,
don't
if
know.
they had just pulled Channing Tater in there, Tater Tot, Channing Tatum, it would have made the game better.
You just said three different nothings, and it
It's the
equaled
same
out to
guy,
absolutely that.
Channing
Channing
Tatum,
Tater.
Tater
Hold on.
Tot.
Channing Tater, Tater Tot, and Channing Tatum. I'm not sure if three of the same people. I've never met anybody by the name of Tater Tot, but I hear he's great in the film. Uh,
Listen, you need a little tater in your life.
Harold and Kumar go to Burger King. No, they don't have tater tots.
No, I know.
Sonic.
I'm just making a
Harold and Kumar go to Sonic.
just making a joke. Although Channing,
But go ahead, go ahead.
I was
Channing
gonna say
Tater Tot.
you put Tatum in there, good
Well,
to go.
that's all good information. I want to thank you, John, for taking this time to record this podcast. I know you're still going to the gym tonight, right?
Fuck yeah, I am. I mean, yes, I am.
You can say I said you can say that. You can
You can
go
bleep that out
crazy.
later, I
This doesn't
guess.
have to be a PG podcast. It does say entertainment for everyone, but maybe not children. I don't know. That's up to you
Well, I mean,
guys.
are you gonna like put this in another language for somebody who doesn't speak English?
That's what we'll do. We'll dub you saying all of your curse words in German, and we'll
Uh-huh.
overlay them over your actual curse words. How
Yeah, but
about
you
that?
said entertainment for everyone though, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, Germans don't mind the cussing, right?
not as fun. I mean, like, there's probably
I mean,
somebody.
when we went to Germany, you were swearing at all the children just as they walked by. You were saying like, "Go jump back up your mother" and all kinds
Why
of stuff.
that's not true.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's all we've got. So thank you guys so much for joining us this week with the Nobody Entertainment podcast. We'll do our best to produce a new podcast each and every week, bringing all kinds of new information from video games, our takes on movies, television, music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but also things that are going on in our lives that we find interesting and fun. Again, our whole goal with this podcast is just to number one, provide a little piece of entertainment potentially for the masses, but also for us. Again, I'm not trying to be entitled here, but I just want to have some fun. I want you to have some fun. And I felt like we had a good time. I know I did.
Maybe you didn't let me talk about Witcher 2 port to Linux. You want to talk
Do you,
about those
I mean, are we
people?
doing news here?
No, that's not. That's old. Witcher 2. Witcher 2's old, but they ported it to Linux, right? And it was not a good port. Um, and I bought it because I was Linux, and I still am Linux, but I mean like I was Linux, but it was a bad port. But um the way a lot of people on the internet treated the developers, what they wrote to the developers, and how disgusting they were. Um, Witcher 3 was plugged to be on Linux. It was going to be on the Steam machine. The studio said, "To hell with it. If this is how this community is, we just won't do it." And so Witcher 3 is not on Linux because, and they came out and said that because the people were just that disgusting.
So people got mad that it was being ported to Linux.
No, they were upset because the port was bad. Like it was clunky. It didn't
So
play very well.
instead of fixing it, they just took it away.
Dude, people were well, they didn't take it away. I still have it. I don't know. They might have removed it from the stores, but yeah, they were like, "Well, fine. We're not going to do the third one then. We won't port it to Linux. You guys are a
And
small
again,
niche anyhow, but we don't want anything to do with you because you're that disgusting."
well, I think that's also a good point there. Again, it's respect. Even if it's a bad port, it's a bad port, and I understand the disrespect in regards to that, right?
And you can voice your opinion and how upset you are without being disgusting.
And I don't have any ill feelings towards the developers of The Witcher, because what you basically run into in that situation is if they're going to be, that's one of the most giving studios of any video game studio that I've ever come across. I mean, whenever they put their The Witcher 3 out, they included just a thank you letter, and they included all of their DLC with the exception of their major expansion, Blood and Wine, I believe
I
is
don't know
what it's
those money
called.
grubbing studio. No.
No, they put everything else out completely for free.
Yeah.
And that is a good way. I mean, they are a studio for the people because they recognize their fans and they want to build up their fan base. So yeah, for the people to go after them. And again, I've heard nothing about this. I think that's an interesting point, especially. Um, just the moral of the story is we need to show people more respect. I think that we can deal with our anger and our frustration in a more appropriate way. And sending death threats and being mad about a bad port in the moment, because we can fix that. I say we, not me. The developers can fix that. But is there anything else you want to add?
Nope. If you're gonna post this on the internet, though, I need somebody to let me know how fish oil is extracted from the fish.
What I'll do is I'll make a video. I mean, we're going camping this weekend, and I don't have any plans to fish, but I'll use my 25% Native American tribal skills to fish,
Just squeeze. You gotta squeeze the oil out of them.
get some kind of bass out of Lake Michigan, and I'll send you the fish oil. I'm gonna send you the product. I have no idea what it's gonna be, but we'll find out, right?
I don't. Postal system. You'll end up on a list.
Nah, I don't doubt it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. I just want to tell you guys all thank you so much for watching, if anybody has. But just remember, you could be a nobody just like us. That's the moral of the story, is we're all nobodies talking about whatever entertains us. So become a nobody like John and I. And you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Bye.